Yep.
Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He's the author of the book Leadership Styles, no other than Mr. Paul B. Thornton. Welcome to Book 101, Mr. Paul, and can you please introduce more about yourself?
Sure, Daniel. Thank you, first of all, for having me on your program. I have been a lifelong student and teacher of leadership. I think it's a fascinating topic. I have conducted college classes, seminars, workshops. I've written a lot of books about it. I've been in various leadership roles myself. I've been a um, manager, leader in a Fortune 500 company. I also have been a college hockey coach. So I've been involved in being a leader, teaching courses in it, seminars, as I said, workshops, and it's a passion of mine, I guess I'd say.
Mr. Paul Thornton, thank you so much for sharing your talents to the world. Thank you so much for empowering us. What are the key traits of a leader who excels in a directing leadership style?
Well, I talk about three styles in my book: directing, discussing, and delegating. So, directing, and this could be a parent, a teacher, a coach, a manager, leader. When you're directing, you're telling the person what to do, how to do it, when to have it done by. You're giving them a roadmap or step by step instructions of what they need to do to complete the task. And you'd use that style when you're when the person's in a situation where maybe they've never done the task before, they're a complete novice, sometimes in an emergency situation, a fire or some crisis situation. You want quick decisions, you need fast action. You're not going to have a big discussion about what to do. You want the leader to take command and say, do this and have it done, XYZ. So that's the directing style. You have to be a good communicator. You have to be clear. You have to provide the right amount of detail. I find some leaders over communicate. They provide so many details that the person gets confused and they end up not knowing exactly what to do. So don't over communicate. Just provide the right amount that the person needs to do what they need to do. So that's directing. Yeah.
So, how does a directing style ensure tasks are completed efficiently?
I'm sorry, say that again, Daniel.
How does a directing style ensure tasks are completed efficiently?
How does it lead to a person completing the task or the work that they need to do?
Yes.
Well, if I'm dealing with an employee and I'm telling them exactly what they need to do and how to do it, I want them to listen. I want them to pay attention. I want them to ask questions if they don't understand what to do. But in essence, I want them to then go and do exactly what they were told to do, right? I want them to follow my directions. Um, this past summer, for example, I was teaching my grandson how to dock my boat at the gas pier. So I demonstrated how to do it. I showed him, and then I said, you need to do this, go in at this speed, at this angle. You need to put it in neutral, all the steps he had to take. So I told him very precisely what he had to do to dock the boat correctly at the pier. And as he was doing it, I was giving him feedback and additional instructions as needed. So he was successful. Now, like most things, the first time you do it, it doesn't go quite the way you wanted. And he made a few mistakes. And so we talked about that. And then he tried it again and again. And, eventually he got it down. And was very good at it. So that's the directing style. Again, you're telling them what to do, and then they go and do it according to what they were told.
So, what are the benefits of using directing style in situations with the clear goals?
Well, you get the work done. The person completes the task, but they also learn some important things. They learn to pay attention. They learn to listen. They learn to ask questions. They learn to, follow directions, meet deadlines. Those are all really important skills. So I think that's a bonus, so to speak, of using a directing style. And again, these styles refer to really being a parent or coach or teacher. We use them all the time. There's nothing wrong with telling someone what to do and how to do it if they have no idea what to do. Matter of fact, that person wants and needs to know what to do. They want a roadmap. They want to know step one, step two, step three. So they welcome that structure and that direction on what to do. And it helps them learn, as I said.
How can leaders foster open communication when using a discussing leadership style?
Well, going into the second one, discussing basically here the leaders asking questions, just like you're doing in this podcast. Um, the questions refer to what needs to be done or how it should be done or what the obstacles are. You're basically asking questions to see how the person is thinking about the particular problem or issue. You're getting their thoughts and ideas. Um, you're getting their input. You're getting a clear understanding. Do they see the task clearly, or are they confused, or are they clear on the steps they would take? That type of thing. Um, and when you use this style, the person is learning again to listen and pay attention, but they're also learning to think, right? Because you're asking them questions and they have to think about what is the right response or how would they, respond to the question. So they're learning to think, formulate their ideas, succinctly present them. Um, they're also, if you're working in a group setting, they're learning to collaborate with others and build on the ideas of others. Work in a team setting, that's really important. Um, Discussion, you for you, the manager or parent or teacher or coach, when you use a discussing style, you're getting a chance to see how the person thinks about the particular issue or opportunity that you're dealing with.
Very well said. Very well said, Mr. Paul. And what are the advantages of discussing over directing in creative
Hmm.
environments?
Well, again, I think the big idea, Daniel, for me is you want to use a style that fits the needs of the situation. So if a
Yes.
person has no idea what to do, they're clueless, you want to direct them. If they have some experience and some know-how and some, business sense, so to speak, you might want to discuss with them how they see the problem or opportunity. For me, I think the big advantage of discussion is you're getting the person to think and present their ideas. It's sort of like raising children. Early on, we use a directing style as a parent, but when the kids get a little older, we want to discuss things with them. How do you think about this situation? What would you do? Do a role play with them, maybe. If someone at school came up to you and offered you drugs, what would you do? What would you say? How would you handle that? So you're getting them to think through situations and get them to respond in terms of what they would do, why they would do that, maybe. Um, get them think through also the consequences. If you did this action, what would be the consequence? So you're helping them gain perspective and gain clarity on, what they would do, why they would do it, that type of thing. So there's a lot of advantages to discussion.
So,
Now,
Mr.
let
Paul,
me tell you, one of the disadvantages, though, Daniel, is sometimes managers, they discuss things too long. The discussion goes on and on and on and on. At some point, you got to make a decision, right? At some point, after you've had the discussion, there's consensus, or the leader or manager says, okay, this is what we're going to do. After they've gotten the input from the person and you've had a good discussion, at some point, someone's got to make a decision.
so Mr. Paul, what tools or techniques can managers use to facilitate meaningful discussions within their teams?
Well, good question. I think the better your questions, the better the discussion. So I think a lot of times it helps to think through in advance, what are you going to ask the person, and also maybe where follow-up questions would be needed. So if you're dealing with a particular problem, let's say, in advance of the meeting with the person, you might think about, okay, what am I going to ask the person? I'm going to ask them to define the problem, how they see it. I'm going to ask them maybe how they think the problem developed or evolved. What steps or what options do they see to solve the problem? Who would have to be involved? What steps would they take to determine the feasibility of the solution that they think would work? So preparation is important. In advance of the meeting, again, thinking through what questions would make the most sense for this meeting. What do I want to find out from the person? What do I want to learn from them? And prepare those and go into the meeting with those, ready to roll.
So, Mr. Paul, what common challenges leaders face when adopting a discussing leadership style?
Well, I think, as I said, sometimes managers and parents and teachers and coaches, they discuss it too long. At some point, you got to make a decision. You want to get the person's input. You want to hear their ideas, their suggestions, how they see the problem or opportunity. But at some point, you, the authority figure, the parent or teacher, you got to make a decision. Okay, this is what we're going to do and why we're going to do it. That's really the big problem I see. Um, Sometimes a manager might use a discussing style, and the person might not have any knowledge or experience, or really may not have a lot to offer to the issue that you're dealing with. So that can be a problem. They may not have the background or experience or know-how. That doesn't happen that often, but it could happen.
So, Mr. Paul, what would be your advice for those people out there who want to be a leader?
Um, I think to be a leader, you first of all, three things stand out for me. Number one, you got to get really clear on your beliefs and values. What do you believe? What do you value? And that's easy to say, but it's hard to do. You have to spend a lot of time in reflection and getting feedback from your mentors and colleagues and friends, but clarifying, what do I believe? What do I value? What do I stand for? What's important to me? What are my priorities? I think that's really important. Number two, I think leaders are always thinking about, what can I do to add value? Leaders want to improve the status quo. So their focus is on, what can I do to make things better? It could be dealing with an individual or team or organization for that matter. And number three, I think you have to work on your skills regarding relating to people, connecting with people. Leaders need to influence and inspire people. So you have to develop a skill set where you build relationships and can interact with people in a way that they're going to listen and they're going to, take into consideration what you're proposing and recommending and that type of thing. So I think those are three really important things. And maybe if I had to boil it down to one thing, communications is critical. You have to be a good communicator to be an effective leader, because a lot of it involves communicating your ideas and also being a good listener. So those two are really important.
So, Mr. Paul, what are your short-term and long-term goals in writing?
I'm sorry, what am I what?
Short-term and long-term goals
My long-term
in
goals?
writing.
Um,
Yes.
I I would love to have my book, especially this book, The Three Styles, get more publicity. And I think it's a very simple, straightforward approach to leading. I think we use these three styles all the time, almost every day. I know when I was in the business world, in a meeting, I would use all three styles in that one meeting. I'm hoping that this book will catch fire and will get exposed out there, because I'm a big believer in simplifying the complex. And a lot of these things are not that complicated. Sometimes they're challenging to implement, but like this idea of these three styles, I think is pretty simple and straightforward. And I think a teacher, parent, as I said before, coach, that you can benefit from boiling it down to getting good at each of these three styles and being effective at using them and know when to use them.
So, what are the benefits of delegating in building trust and empowering teams?
Yeah, we didn't really talk about delegating. Delegating is the third style, and that is where you empower someone with a task or project. You give them the authority, give them the uh, power, so to speak, to do what they need to do to get the task done on their own. You're not telling them what to do, you're not having a discussion with them. You're just saying, I want you to handle this project. I want you to have it done by this date. You might tell them what resources they have, but you're giving them the power to decide what they're going to do, how they're going to do it. They're going to plan it, they're going to make it happen. And you would use that style if you're dealing with someone who's got a lot of experience. They've done the task numerous times, or similar tasks. So they kind of have a sense. They have experience, they have the ability, they have the motivation. You're just, like I say, delegating to them, empowering them to go and do it. When you use a delegating style, people learn to work independently. They learn to make decisions, develop a plan, maybe negotiate with the people they need to work with, make decisions as they have to, but they learn to get it done and meet the deadline. It's sort of, again, like raising kids. When your children get older and now they're in their 20s and 30s and what have you, you're delegating to them. You want them to run their own life. You want them to make decisions. You want them to plan and, take care of themselves and all that type of thing. Same idea in the business world. When the person has the skill set and they've done it and they know what to do, you want to delegate. So that would be appropriate there. One problem I see is sometimes people, they can't let go of the task. They love doing it. They can't let go. So they keep being overly involved in it. That is the manager. You have to learn to let go. You have to learn to empower other people to take the ball and run with it. You know, um, Sometimes some managers over delegate to their top performers. If you have a really superstar employee, they're going to do a bang up job. They're going to do an A+ performance. So you keep giving them more and more and more work to do, and you burn them out. And again, that's not good. You want to you don't want to overload or over delegate to any of your employees. You can use delegation as a chance to give someone a chance to show what they can do. You know, you can give them a project to see how they're going to handle it and what they're going to do on their own, and let them, show their stuff, so to speak. So it's good that way as well.
Very well said, Mr. Paul, and good luck for your goals. Looking forward for more empowering books like this. To sum up our discussion for today, how can leaders ensure accountability while maintaining trust when delegating tasks?
Well, you the manager or leader are ultimately responsible for the work that gets done in your department. So you got to keep that in mind. You're delegating, but you still own it. You're still ultimately responsible for it. So even though I delegate something to an employee, I want to monitor or get some feedback periodically to see how they're doing. So I want to have some check-in points, and I want to make sure they're on track and they're going to complete it and hit the deadline and the budget and that type of thing. So you have to empower them, but also you have to maintain some realization that you're ultimately accountable, and you want to have checkpoints where you get feedback to make sure it's on track and things are going as they should be.
Definitely. Again, Mr. Paul Thornton, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. As I said, we are looking forward for more empowering books like this. Can you please invite our listeners to support your leadership styles?
Yeah, I hope some people will go on Amazon. It's very inexpensive. It's a very simple book. It's inexpensive. I think it's well worth the read, and I hope some people will pick it up and see what they think.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Paul Thornton because if you support him, as I said, more empowering books like these to come. So, Mr. Paul, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate being on.
More to come, people. See you soon. You are most welcome to come back, Mr. Paul, if you have another book to promote.
Okay,
Just
great.